Hello! It's Rebecca, and welcome back to another video and a brand new year of bullet journaling for 2022. I'm going on to my third year of making bullet journaling videos on YouTube, and I'm especially excited to share this one with you because I kind of have an overarching theme for the upcoming year, so let's get journaling. Alright, so for 2022, I decided to stick with a bullet journal from Maisie Lane. This is an A5 dotted notebook in the color feather gray. Maisie Lane was kind enough to send me a journal when I became an official ambassador last year, so I just got it personalized with my name on the cover in a script font. I used one of these journals last year and was really impressed with the quality of paper. Maisie Lane is a small business and I absolutely adore their minimal designs on the notebook spine and the personalization. Plus, they released a lot of beautiful new colors over the past year, and I'm always excited to see what designs they will drop. If you're interested in getting a notebook, I will leave the discount code and a link in the description down below. This video is not sponsored, but with the code RebeccaWho15, you can get 15% off your order, and I get a small commission at no added price to you. Getting right to the first page of the notebook, I am writing my name in the skinny all-caps font. You'll see that I shifted the middle of the letters slightly upwards. I did forget to keep the midline of the letters shifted a couple of times later, but I will be using this as one of the fonts throughout this setup. Next, I took out a couple of tombos. The color scheme that I chose for this spread is a light gray, purple, and blue. Purple is my favorite color, and Pantone actually made a new periwinkle color for 2022, so it felt very fitting. For this setup, I was feeling very inspired by the abstract blob art that I've seen many people do, and it's a very easy way to create a theme and add color because it doesn't require much thought and planning. Most of the examples that I've seen tend to use some sort of foliage doodle on top of the colors, but I'm going to be using symbols found in music as well as some random dots and lines. For the design, I started with the tombos and drew the blobs. I did a combination of colored ones and then also drew some unfilled shapes. Next, I drew the music symbols and added the finishing touches with small circles, black and silver dots. Again, since it's the setup for the beginning of the year, we're not going for anything too difficult. On the inside cover of the bullet journal, I decided to put the key for the year. I am introducing the second font that I will be using throughout the setup, which is kind of like a serif font, but I made one of the vertical lines in each letter a bit thicker. Not much has changed, so I will be keeping the same symbols that I've used in my journal the past few years. I was originally thinking of getting rid of the note and memory symbols because I didn't use them much over the past year, but I'm hoping that I will use my journal more next year after all of this customization for my needs. I drew a curved border around the key and used a ruler and then a small corner from a page in my old journal for the curved edges. I worked on the abstract art design like how I did on the previous page. I honestly found it kind of relaxing to work on the design. Usually when I go into making a spread, I have everything planned out, but other than planning where I wanted the words, I had no plans this time for the doodles. I also colored the letters in the title. Flipping over to the quote page, I am going to be using the quote, "Music is the soundtrack of your life." I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I'm going to have a theme for this upcoming year in my journal. So if you haven't guessed it already, my theme is music. I found that a lot of my inspiration last year came from the music that I was listening to. If you look at most of my themes over the past year, there were many inspired by songs. So I thought, should I just choose themes next year inspired by songs again? And that is exactly what my plan is for next year. I've always enjoyed listening to music, and I have made a lot of art inspired by music as seen in my lettering pages and bullet journal. I also recently made shoes inspired by songs, so needless to say, I think this music theme is going to be good for 2022. Lately, I've been mostly listening to music by Korean artists, so I have a feeling that a lot of my themes are going to be inspired by K-pop songs, but we'll see. You can join me every month to see what songs I choose as themes. So on this page, I combined the two fonts from the previous pages, but I decided to letter the word soundtrack. I did have to clean up some of the edges with another fine liner, but overall I really like how this page turned out. Next up is the cover page for this year, and I'm going to be honest, this is not my favorite page in the setup because it felt a little underwhelming. Overall, it is incredibly minimalistic, so I find that nice for the beginning of the year. This was mainly inspired by a spread I saw on Instagram by the account By Claire. As always, any inspiration that I found will be in the description down below. Anyway, I decided to write out 2022 on the cover. I did space out the letters a little more on the second line just to give a little added distinction between the first and second line. Then I drew the art design along the top right and bottom left of the words. There's nothing wrong with the title page, but it just felt a little plain to me in comparison to some of the previous pages, so I did add a little bit more silver around the words. I just drew 3 teardrop shapes on both sides. While I was at it, I also took the silver pen and added some details to the lettering on the previous page. Moving on is going to be the future log. I was able to fit a full year of bullet journaling in one notebook the past couple of years, so I will try my best to do that again for next year. On the spread, I wrote out future log across the center of the page. Then I highlighted the top of the 12 sections for the mini calendars and wrote out the months. Next, if you have one of those mini calendar stamps, this would be a great time to use it and saves a lot of time. I don't own one, so I will be writing out all of the dates by hand. I find repetitive tasks like this where I don't have to think too much to be quite relaxing as well. Honestly, I spent quite a bit of time on the spreads from the beginning of the year, but it was a very relaxing time. I just threw on some music in the background and took my time on the pages. There's also something about starting a new journal that makes me work a little slower. To connect the spread to the previous pages, I colored in the letters of the title, and then I decided to tape off the middle section of the page to add the abstract design. With the tape, it was really nice to draw the design because I didn't have to worry about getting clean edges. I also love how the spread turned out. It just looks very clean to me. Then I just added New Year's Day to my future log so that you could see an example of how I will be using the spread. Starting on the goals page, I realized that I had a lot more spreads than I thought, but that is alright because the next couple of spreads are all of the fun spreads in my opinion. Last year when I made my goals page, I had 3 big goals that I wanted to write down, but I found that over the last year my goals changed, so I just wanted a space that I could write down whatever I wanted. I actually took the breakdown for the goals from Nina Yu on YouTube. She had 3 categories of goals in her spread. The first section is for stuff that seems kind of unrealistic, but that I would still want to do. I'm calling this section my dreams. The next section is any of the big stuff that I want to do, which I am calling my ambitions. Finally, the last section is realistic stuff I want to do for the year, such as drinking more water, and this section I'm labeling as realistic. I drew a small music note at the bottom of each section in these boxes, and for any of my musically gifted human beings out there, I matched the length of the music note to the size of the goal. For example, the ambitions are bigger goals, so that has an 1/8 note, whereas the realistic goals might be what I use to break down those bigger goals, so that is a 16th note. Anyway, back from the music tangent, I just added the small abstract doodles next to the title to finish this page. The next page is the spread that I titled Check It Out. Just like on the previous pages, I drew a symbol for a quarter rest at the bottom of the page and then drew a border around the page. Last year I had separate spreads for things to watch or listen to, but I just made a general spread this year. I feel like most of this page will be for dramas that I want to check out anyway, but I think overall the idea of the spreads this year is to generalize a lot more. I colored the letters at the top and then did one small art design in the top left corner behind the title and a small doodle in the bottom right corner in the rectangle and some small colored blobs behind the rest symbol. As my themes for this year will all be inspired by songs, it is only natural that I have a spread dedicated to them. I've never made a theme gallery in my journal before, but I thought it would be really cute here. I also wanted to make a Song of the Month spread, so I decided to just include it here in the spread. So on the left, I wrote out 2022 Themes Playlist, and on the right, I wrote 2022 Songs of the Month. Next, I just took a pen and wrote the headers for each of the months. While I had my pen out, I decided to also work on the Songs of the Month section by numbering and highlighting one line per month in the playlist. After that, I started on the borders to section a space for each of the themes. I'm going to either draw or print out a picture of the album art for the song I choose as the theme of the month, but for now I will just draw a small play, rewind, and fast forward button at the bottom of each spread. After coloring in the letters at the top, I decided to also color each of the sections for the themes. I definitely should have let the fine liner dry a bit before coloring because it did smudge slightly. The page as a whole felt quite busy, so I decided not to add any additional spots of the abstract art from the previous pages. Finally, we have the last two spreads that will be my dashboard for all of the YouTube videos that I want to create in 2022. This section can always be skipped, or I can definitely see a way in which you could alter the spread to track projects in school. At the top of the left-hand page, I wrote out YouTube. Under it, I have two sections. One is to track the videos that I have filmed, which is brought over from my spread last year. I added a new section at the bottom of the page, though, for ideas. I think I often have a lot of ideas for videos throughout the year, so it will be nice to have a spot for that in my journal. I drew a similar border like how I did on the previous sections with a music note at the bottom and some colored blobs behind it. Then, after coloring in the title, I decided to add some of the abstract art doodles surrounding the title. On the right-hand side, I am writing Video Kanban at the top of the page. I've used Kanban boards at work before, but I saw it for the first time in a bullet journal in Elizabeth from Plant-Based Brides videos. She does a really great job of explaining what a Kanban board is in terms of project management, but essentially it is a way for you to track repetitive tasks. So for me, that's the process of making a video. You can always adapt this for a project as well, or I can even see it for cleaning a household. I made 10 sections here, but you only need to make as many sections as you will have for steps. I started by coloring in each section, alternating between my different Tombow colors. Of course, I couldn't forget to color in the letters at the top of the page, and then I just labeled each of the sections with a step in my video making process. Also, since this page already had a lot of color, I decided to skip the abstract art doodles. However, lastly, as an example of how I will use the spread, I will take a sticky note and write what video I'm working on and stick it to the section. When I complete the first section, I can then move the sticky note to the next one. The spread is nice because it has so much space that allows me to track multiple videos at a time. With the final flip through of the pages that I set up for the 2022 bullet journal setup, I really loved how free-flowing this theme felt. I also love this color scheme of purple, blue, and gray. It feels very calming to me, which is perfect amidst this busy end of the year season. So that is it for my 2022 bullet journal setup. I am incredibly excited to be starting a fresh journal full of music themes and a new year. I would love to hear what songs you would be interested in seeing me make into a theme next year. Regardless, I hope you stay safe and healthy and have a happy holiday season. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!